Midterms with an overview. Counterplay doesn't solve any of the first it doesn't solve any of our perception arguments. First is congressional signal on wide evidence is fantastic on this question conceded. In the 2 I got here with about 30 seconds left. Wide evidence indicates the perception of xenophobia directed by policymakers is what's scaring immigrants off. He also scaring employers from hiring immigrants in the first place, which also means they don't solve the F. Second, 1ARX conceded a bunch of 1NR evidence, which indicates that agency action is not perceived, not looked at. He also read a piece of evidence that would come out after midterms, but that doesn't deny the fact that there's 3 or 4 cards which indicate nobody listened to agencies compared to Congress, which means that immigrants who are living in other countries who do not understand English are not going to be able to figure it out if the American public isn't going to be able to figure out the counterplan. Isn't going to be able to figure out the counterplan. Isn't going to be able to figure out the counterplan either. There's 2 impacts to this. Our Brown and Baltimore evidence is fantastic on the question of perception. Indicates perception outweighs actual solvency because if students don't believe there's a place for them, at least there's a way for them to transfer decision to work status, they won't come here. In the first place. This means that students won't come to universities to begin with. It's not a question of whether they'll get whatever the counterplan whatever the counterplan gives them upon graduation. If they don't come in the first place, the Brown Baltimore evidence is too good on this question. Indicates the perception of visa policy outweighs the actual reaction. Second, they create a bureaucratic hellhole of soccer, and our Papa Dimitri evidence fantastic on this question indicates that there's massive competition for talent. Immigrants can go to Canada and get a green card right away, or they can go to the U.S. and wait on a semi-legal agency procedure and parole for decades before they can finally get confirmed permanent residency status and transition to citizenship. Our evidence is too good on this question. Any difference between the U.S. and other countries that are more welcoming means we'll lose the race to talent. The second impact of this is National Academy's evidence, which indicates that when immigrants perceive that it's less welcoming of the U.S. you're going to accept less immigrants and be less innovative as a result. Immigrants will start going back to other countries in waves, which means they don't solve either the competitive disadvantage or the student's advantage. Go to the competitive disadvantage right now. Perks and Wilforth evidence indicates the U.S. will still be number 1. That does not mean it'll have the ability to project power around the world. Our Polwark evidence indicates that the U.S. military technology is dependent on high-skilled immigrants. They've conceded the magnitude of the internal link, which means that their uniqueness impact defense doesn't apply. The tax all cause is not comparative. Our evidence indicates that innovators are the key internal link to large profits, even if we tax some of them. There's no possible conceivable one argument. It's impossible to regenerate our semiconductor industry if there's no innovators there to do that. Brooks and Wilforth doesn't assume a world where the Chinese takes control of our semiconductors and U.S. military technology, which means that even if we have an economic lead, we don't have a military lead. Go to universities. Conceded uniqueness for this advantage. We're losing the percentage of university students in the status quo, which will destroy research. This is important for the BMD add-on, which is an impact add-on to particle accelerators. Our Brown evidence is better than Chapman. It indicates that terrorists can easily transport nuclear materials, or they could steal full weapons, get them past borders. Our evidence is just better. They say no miscal. He concedes there's no. He says we can detect now. Their evidence indicates we could detect when the Soviets blew up a bomb, not that we could be able to track where a terrorist nuclear weapon came from. Even if we can track it now, our evidence indicates it's too slow, and only particle accelerators speed up the detection, so there's no heightened alert and miscalculation with Russia. He's conceded the Russia impact, which means to try or die for the affirmative. Go to the midterms to say. Case outweighs turn scenario versus the dissect magnitude. We have the only scenario for nuclear conflict with Russia, only nuclear war with enough weapons to end the world. They've also conceded 2 critically important impact framing questions. First is that hegemony provides massive stabilizing force, deterring all other countries from going to war. No impact defense to Kagan means the only way for conflict to break out is if the U.S. declines. The only scenario for an impact is the counterplan doesn't solve the F. 2 is our Hicks evidence indicates that effective ballistic missile defense makes all war impossible. We'll shoot every missile out of the sky. Even if we can't deter North Korea, we can shoot them down. Even if there's a localized war in North Korea, the only scenario for escalation is a world where they don't solve Iran. His answer to this is deterrence does not solve the North Korean war. Fine, I'll concede that argument. It doesn't take out the BMD defense. It does, however, take out the only internal link they have to solving. Their one NC internal link evidence indicates that U.S.-South Korean cooperation scares the North Koreans and creates deterrent. Additionally, head checks is the only internal link to this argument. If we're not powerful, there's no reason it matters that we talk to the South Koreans and we scare the North Koreans in the first place. It didn't extend an argument why the turn commanders concedes we control uniqueness. Scapt is a drop in the bucket compared to overall uniqueness. Midterms, overall hegemony, not going for the uniqueness debate. However, they did concede that we'll just pay, the Democrats will just pay workers to drive up grassroots enthusiasm, which solves the link uniqueness question. Their link evidence is awful. Our evidence is specific to high-tech immigration. Indicates that Hispanics hate high-tech immigration because that's the only bargaining chip that they can get CIR passed with. Our evidence is specific to the Congressional Hispanic Caucus. Indicates they block every piece of legislation and that they control the Hispanic vote and will tell their Hispanic voters which way to vote, which way to vote on this question. This is key distinction. This is a key distinction. Additionally, their cards say piecemeal reform is popular with Hispanics because it's things like the DREAM Act deal with illegal immigration. The plan has nothing to do with illegal immigration. DREAM Act doesn't give a bargaining chip that Republicans would vote for otherwise. The plan does. That's a key difference. Their evidence that says EB visa says Hispanics want one thing, business leaders want another thing. It proves the link. Just because there's high school Latinos that don't have a piece of evidence to get Latinos switch their votes based off of that, their votes based on that internal link. Our link cards are too good. Now, doesn't solve relations. Our evidence is much better. Our CRS evidence indicates that overall geopolitical trends and high relations now means there's no risk of decline. Our evidence is better on this question. Their evidence is from Hex. Our evidence from congressional research analyst who's independent indicates that geopolitical cooperation is inevitable because of debate freshman debate.